session all that.
No. You just said I gave a wonderful session and you don't know the title? This is not really a good thing to know. But anyway, it was about ASP.NET Core, SignalR, so the framework that in the newest Microsoft platform adds real-time capabilities, so the ability essentially to open constant communication between a number of clients, including web clients, but not necessarily just web clients, and a server-side backend. Many different ways you can think of real-time data. When I was at university decades ago, I still remember my professor giving a very unusual definition of what is real-time. It was fast enough for the client to make any decision he was expecting to make. So it's not necessarily real-time in the sense that as it happens, but real-time in general is fast enough or quick enough for the client to do whatever it is supposed to do. So there are definitely scenarios where real-time means a continuous function, a continuous curve that indicates the growth of data, the rate of something. And there are other simpler real-time scenarios when essentially we are talking about notifications, much like push notifications we know from the mobile world, that reach the client from within the server but sent from the server back to the client. So for this to happen, of course, a socket, a pipe, a sort of invisible channel needs to be established. Microservices is a concept, if we try to remove all the hype that conferences and magazines and posts and also companies add on top of that, if we remove all of this, we find one of the most basic structures of software. The theoretical foundation of microservices is one of the pillars of domain-driven design. It's bounded context. That simply says that whenever you have a big enough domain, it's better for you to split it up in smaller components, and when you do it in a real business domain, most of the time you find out that the way in which you split, the natural way of splitting, reflects the organization, the structure of the organization that does that kind of business. So microservices is a sort of practical name for something theoretical that we know has bounded context. So it's everywhere, and there is nearly no application I can think of for which the idea of microservices in the architecture is out of place. This said, there is then, and it's probably where most of the hype is all about, is the implementation. So how would you really physically set it up? Again, it depends on the complexity of the application, it depends on the complexity of the system, but there is one more point and one more buzzword I would like to introduce, and maybe I can even have a talk about that in a future Codecamp in the coming months. And the term is microsystems, because recently I've run into a couple of really huge projects, sort of those nationwide projects aimed at changing the way in which an entire country does certain things, in which they were calling microservices what in reality were a huge, a big microservice made of a variety of smaller microservices. So let's call microsystem the overall container, which is still a sort of a service, and let's call microservices the parts. Or to use a developer-friendly metaphor, let's say that you are building in Visual Studio or in any other IDE a solution. In your solution you have a variety of class library projects or projects of many different types, some small, some less small. So the microsystem is the solution and microservices are the components within the solution. This is a pretty much generic and general purpose definition, but as usual in software it depends. Codecamp is amazing for the number of people that is able to convey in a single location, and for the ability to find larger and larger places to contain all these people. Numbers are really amazing. Thank you.